me making the last minute adjustments to my slides. Just make sure my email's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I'm sure we'll have more people join us as the hour gets into it here, but I'm going to go ahead and, whoops, let me get it right up. Share. There we go. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our Great Trails State Coalition Cities, Towns, and Counties webinar series. Um, we are so grateful to have you all. We have three awesome speakers talking to us today about safe routes to schools and the very different programs across the state. So I'm gonna go through our welcome really briefly. Thank you for joining us. We are a coalition that has a vision of all 100 North Carolina counties having trails to enjoy and use as safe means for economic development, tourism, transportation, and environmental benefits. And what success looks like for us and what we work really hard and are very focused on is to have adequate and recurring funding for the Great Trail State Program. We also work on state policies and programs to support trail development and management. And we encourage everyone to use the Great Trail State brand so that everyone knows that North Carolina is the Great Trail State and that you're never very far when you're here from a Great Trail experience. The brand is open source. It's for all across all sectors and communities, all different kinds of surfaces and uses. And yes, like I said, it's our vision to have it across all 100 trails across all 100 counties. And we couldn't be doing this work without our membership. So thank you so much to what now is about 150 coalition members supporting this advocacy and the work to build the Great Trail State. We've had some wonderful legislative successes. We started out in 2021 with a Year of the Trail designation, which really helped us spread the word about what this could be. A feasibility study in 2022, helping to really put together the Great Trail State program. And in 2023, we had our first non-recurring source and of 25 million for the Great Trail State Program, which has now gone out to about 70 different projects across the state, and 5 million for those complete the trail funds, which are for authorized state trails. In 2024, we designated Great Trail State Day, so that's every October the third Saturday in October. Please celebrate with us. And last week we had big news from our General Assembly that we have $15 million in trails for our state. Again, non-recurring, we have 13 million for the Great Trails State program and the Complete the Trails program. One of those million will go for partner capacity, about 100 to the coalition to continue education and convening trail partners and promoting trails, and then some for our state parks partners to really help with grants administration. We couldn't do the work without also our agency partners who we do this work shoulder to shoulder with. And the series that we are here today for, our cities, towns, and counties, is a free resource for communities, and anyone can join them. And we're really grateful and thankful to have Ada, Jerry, and Kat join us to talk about safe routes to schools and the different kinds of programming that you all are offering communities. In September, we've got NC State folks telling us about the NC Paddle survey results, the survey that went out across the state. And they'll be talking to us on September 15th. And on October 7th, we'll be hearing about volunteer management and best practices or promising practices. And we are um, excited to have Melissa join us in December too on safety um, and designing economic impact through these designing for safety is the assessment that she uses. And a last reminder, we can't wait to see you in August for our conference, the Great Trails State Conference. We'll be in Winston-Salem. We hope you've registered. We have a lot of great um, speakers and film fest and awards, so it's not to be missed. We also have a wonderful raffle that is open now and live, so you can win your next outdoor adventure. Tickets are 20 bucks or 5 for 75. And we've got a package for equestrian. You can win an equestrian ride for up to 4 people and a 2-night stay at Copper Ridge, brand new beautiful facility at Camp Greer and Greer Village. All 3 packages have a $50 Mass General gift certificate. Another package is a river adventure and staying at the Wrong Way River Lodge and Cabins for 2 nights. And then we also have Way Out Adventure rentals for a bike package. And thank you, lastly, but not least, to all of the sponsors that make it possible for us to have this conference and the gathering. We are really so grateful in your help in making this happen. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Kat to kick us off on our conversation today. Thank you all so much for being here.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you so much for inviting us all to be here today. My name is Kat Dale. I'm working with the town of Winterville, which is over in Eastern North Carolina, and also Oaks and Spokes in Raleigh. So you'll hear a little bit about both of those today. We also have Jerry and Ada, who will speak later about some of the activities with Safe Routes to School in the western part of the state. So just a little bit about how we're all funded. So we are all funded through NCDOT's Safe Routes to School grant program. So any of your communities could also apply for this award. There are a few other Safe Routes to School programs or adjacent programs that exist in the state, but they are funded independently. So the ones you're seeing on the map are just those funded through this Safe Routes to School program through DOT. And you'll hear from 3 of these programs today. So between us, we represent several geographic regions. So I'm over here in the eastern part of the state and a little bit in the Piedmont. And then we have Jerry over here with Foothills Regional Commission and Ada with Land of Sky Regional Council. So I work with a really small town. I also work with a small nonprofit. And then we have our other 2 speakers who are working with a variety of counties. So we represent a lot of different types of agencies as well between us. This program is for 2 to 3 years, depending on funding with DOT, and it can be used for engineering, design work, light infrastructure, and most aspects of things related to education, encouragement, and assessment related to getting kids to school. So that is walking, scootering, rolling, biking, busing, driving. I think a lot about teen drivers. So any aspects of getting kids to schools, as well as parks and businesses and church and wherever else they're going. That's all things that fall under our umbrella. So if you are interested in this funding and you're really inspired by all the slides you're about to see, there will be applications soon to open for the next grant cycle. So that should be in the next 2 to 3 months, hopefully. We'll hear that. So keep your eyes and ears open for the next round of funding to be announced. And I will say, we really need more friends in Eastern North Carolina. My town of Winterville is one of the only ones in the whole eastern part of the state. So if you're on this call right now and you're in Eastern North Carolina, go hunt down some folks who might be willing to host a Safe Routes to School program. So I'll kick us off. We're going to go east to west across our state today. And I'm going to get started with telling you a little bit about Winterville and Oaks and Spokes and some of our work in Raleigh. So I call this little talk, "The Street is for You," getting kids on bikes in communities both big and small. And I'll tell you a little bit about the two communities that we're going to talk about. So these both have Safe Routes to School programs, or I'm funded through the Safe Routes to School grant in both areas, but they're very different communities. So Raleigh, big, capital of the state, about 500,000 residents. Winterville, very small, growing fast, about 11,000 residents. Both are funded through the same program, but one, the money is routed through Wake County Safe Routes to School program, and then it goes to this small nonprofit called Oaks and Spokes. I'm only the second employee at Oaks and Spokes. And then Winterville is funded directly. So I work directly with the town. I'm a staff member. I have immediate access to public works, our utilities, like any of these other components. So very different kind of agencies. And in Raleigh, there's an extensive and expanding network of greenways and multi-use paths, and they are prioritizing sidewalks and bike lanes and other infrastructure for people outside of vehicles. In Winterville, we have almost no existing bike infrastructure. We have certainly no trails or multi-use paths, something that I think the town is exploring. But right now, this is a classic small Eastern North Carolina town. It's very car dependent. But in both communities, there have been historic struggles with car dependency and disconnected street and sidewalk networks and very harmful road expansions that now result in a lot of people either not being able to move between communities, or people who try are often injured or killed, right? So both communities have issues with high injury road networks, and where we're seeing a lot of deaths and serious injuries. So that's something that we're hoping to change. We do have similar priorities. So our Safe Routes to School program in Winterville, we're aiming to facilitate transportation freedom and safe streets for kids and really all community members. So it is sort of an umbrella program in that sense, who are walking, biking, driving, and busing to schools, parks, and other destinations. And Oaks and Spokes is transforming Raleigh into a city where biking and walking are safe, accessible, and integral to everyday life. So I think a lot about kids in my role with Oaks and Spokes, but I am also working with all community members, and that includes adults. So your Safe Routes to School program, if you're helping kids, you're probably also helping all other community members at the same time. So I'll start with Raleigh, and I'm going to tell you today about two sort of similar programs that we're running both in Raleigh and Winterville. We run a lot of different types of things, and I tried to pare it down for this presentation. I'm just going to tell you about some community bike rides that we're hosting in both places. So Raleigh, we're hosting this event called Raleigh Critical Mass. So if you've heard of Critical Mass is often this like 1,000 person or 100 person bike ride through the streets of a city, and it's to show that streets can be used for all people, and that includes people on bikes. They're really fun. There's one in Raleigh, so if you aren't local to the Triangle, you should come out last Friday of every month. But we wanted to run one just for kids and families. So sometimes those critical mass rides are a little bit not super attainable for a kid who's maybe just starting to learn to ride, or a family that has an early bedtime. So we wanted to run something similar for our kids and young people. So the goals were to demonstrate that streets and trails and greenways should be for people of all ages and abilities, that we want to get more kids and families on bikes while having fun, of course, and we wanted to highlight new or future infrastructure as part of these rides. So that was a really important component that we wanted to incorporate. And I'm going to tell you how to run this critical mass. So maybe you're saying, oh, this sounds fun. Like, tell me more. I'm going to walk you through our steps about how we run these. So you can take this back to your own community, leverage this for trails or greenways or streets in your own neighborhoods. So how to run a critical mass. We generally start by creating a 2.5 to 3 mile route, starting and ending from a location with parking and amenities, like a park or a library. We try to make the route involve some greenways, as well as, of course, public streets. So the idea is to show that kids should also be able to use streets, and they're not just for people in vehicles. And we always select a midpoint location to stop for a snack or for ice cream. We think that's really important. You gotta feed the people. And ice cream definitely brings people out. So our rides are now known as the ice cream rides in Raleigh, which is really fun. And you can see an example of this is a route we ran in the fall. So we used a little multi-use connector to school. This was recently built. It's not even on Google Maps yet. We have a making use of an existing bike lane and then one that was just put in the last year. So there's been some contention around this bike lane, as you can imagine. So we wanted to make use of that. And then, of course, we have our ice cream stop there in the middle of our almost figure eight looking loop. We advertise to PTAs, school administrators, park and library staff. We put this on regional calendars. Sometimes it's hard to know how to sort of meet families where they're at. And we find that definitely going directly through schools or PTAs and putting them on calendars like Triangle and the Cheap or Raleigh Family Facebook groups. Those are always helpful ways to kind of find and connect with families. And then before the ride starts, we have activities like bike and helmet decorating. We set up a mini obstacle course. We have chalk art. We're playing music, both during the ride, but also before the ride. Fun, kid-friendly songs. I think that helps to sort of hype people up, get them excited about riding bikes with us, and gives people something to do while they're waiting for the ride to get started. And then on the ride, we assign a sweep and a lead. We roll really slow. We stop at intersections. We try to keep the group together. And then, of course, we stage or carry a treat at a midpoint location. So my executive director has a cargo bike. So he's been putting the cooler on his cargo bike with some dry ice. And the kids are really excited when they learn that we brought the ice cream with us. So it wasn't even something we drove there. We biked with our ice cream. So kind of a fun extra thing. So that's Raleigh's critical mass. So group ride for kids and families, showing that streets and trails should be used for all ages and abilities. I'm going to next talk to you about Winterville's Neighborhood Bikeway, which is a trail adjacent pilot that involves some of the same things that I just spoke about, partly because I'm running both activities, right? So as you can probably tell, I really love ice cream. So we have to incorporate this in Winterville too. This program is an idea long in the making. So Winterville, like I said, it's a very small community. This is basically you're looking at the whole thing on this map. It's expanded a little bit from this historical view, but it's pretty small. And we had a former Recreation and Advisory Board member who really wanted to design a series of family bike routes or bike trails. We do only have one existing bike lane. That's actually where that arrow is supposed to be pointing. And people routinely park private vehicles in it. So it's sort of one of these cases of people don't see enough people using this infrastructure, and they think that they're fine to store a private vehicle there, even though people do use that infrastructure. So we wanted to finally tackle this ask of this former Recreation and Advisory Board member. And we're running a pilot project right now with a couple of different goals that are similar to our critical mass rides, actually. So the first was to help residents identify safe bike routes to town destinations. We wanted to identify locations for infrastructure improvements and engage community members in a plan we currently have in progress. We're developing our first bicycle and pedestrian plan. So we wanted to engage people in that process. Fostering a culture of active mobility through a couple of community bike parties, which you'll hear about in a second. Like I said, Eastern North Carolina doesn't it could be a place where we have amazing bike culture, right? It's very flat. The weather is wonderful for 9 out of 12 months a year, but it suffers from really major car dependency. So in some ways my work in Winterville is to help shift that culture to a culture where we're walking, we're rolling, we're biking. So that was one of our major goals. And then identifying if a very low cost roadway activation could help encourage more trips by bike. So that is part of our goal too, is can we use sort of low cost interventions in addition to some of our capital projects to improve active mobility. So this is what the route looks like. It's 4.2 miles. It passes by 2 schools, 3 parks, all of our public services like fire and police, our downtown businesses. We have a little cute downtown, little downtown strip, so it passes right through those. It can be read in both directions, and it does use our only bike lane and this little neighborhood park connector, park sideway connector. That's our only multi-use connector in Winterville. So kind of hits all the highlights. We applied shared lane markings and signage that are designed to be very conspicuous but temporary. So our wayfinding paint will last about 3 to 5 months, depending on traffic volume. And we have these signs that are just attached with zip ties around town. So not permanent. That's a big concern of our town council in some ways. So we wanted to make sure that it could be modified easily and it's not going to be out there forever. We did use shared lane markings, which if you are a bike person, you know that these don't improve safety, right? Research shows that they don't improve safety, but for our purposes, they act really well as wayfinding symbols. So instead of just having our little green signs around, we have these really clear on-road markings are to indicate to cars that they may see a person on a bike, but they're also to indicate to the people on the bikes where they should be going next on our bike route. So they're not just sort of your typical use for shared lane markings. They're also used for wayfinding. And our community members have been invited to 3 slow rolling bike parties. So these are themed. Just like Critical Mass, each ride has a mid-ride stop for ice cream and some pre-ride activities, sort of similar, bike and helmet decorating. We've got snacks. We've got costumes for some of these. So they've been really fun. We've had 2 of them so far. We've had really good turnout for a small town. So I've been really thrilled to see that. We have one more in late July. And we are collecting feedback on this project through an online form. So we have a form linked on route signage that we're getting the community's feedback on the project. So those are our 2 community ride projects that I wanted to tell you about. If you have questions, you can email me either at my Winterville address or my Oaks and Spikes address. And if you are in Raleigh or Winterville, I invite you to join us for our next bike party if you want to see it in person. So we have one Friday, July 17th, just a few weeks from now in Raleigh, Walnut Creek Wetland Center, and then in Winterville, Saturday, July 25th, from our main recreation park. So if you are in town, I invite you to join us. And now I will turn it over to Jerry, who will take us over to the west.
All right. Everybody hear me okay? Good. So, my name's Jerry Stensland. Work at Foothills Regional Commission. So that is the green one there. I'm going to expand this so we can see it better. So, we serve 4 counties in our region. So Cleveland, McDowell, Polk, and Rutherford counties here in the foothills and a little bit into the mountains of Western North Carolina. Um, a little bit about our area, just so you can kind of orient yourself. Some of the main towns here are Shelby, Rutherfordton, Spindale, Forest City, Lake Lord, Chimney Rock, just to give you an idea. Maybe some of those towns ring a bell. The largest one is Shelby at about 22,000, and then they go down from there. Most of the communities are in under 10,000 range. Um, I, about 80% of the schools in our region are not walkable or bikeable, and I say never will be as well. The reason I bring that up and say never will be is that it's just the nature of our rural area, and not necessarily a failure of infrastructure development. It may have been a failure originally of siting some of the schools, but it's just most of the schools in our region are rural, and even if they had infrastructure, you'd be lucky to have 5 kids that live within a mile of that school. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through. But we also are benefiting from multiple regional trails. So things are coming in. The Thermal Belt Rail Trail is on the ground in Rutherford. The Harmony Trail there in Shelby is under development. Saluda Grade Trail, a huge project that's going to benefit Polk County. Is going to, try on and Saluda, big benefits. We also have some other McDowell and Peavine Trail, Fauna Flora up in McDowell County. And then I put in a couple others as well, Little White Oak Mountain Trails and Old Fort area. Most of those are actually mountain bike trails, but I bring that up as to think of an alternative way to for transportation is that as these trails get connected, you're actually going to be able to mountain bike places from one to the other. In fact, the Little White Oak Mountain Trails there in Polk County, once they're built out, they'll actually connect to a workforce housing development where people will actually be able to mountain bike from that development to the middle school in Polk County. Um, so um, Thinking about our region and what the characteristics of it, it's very rural. Yes, there are schools in the county, in each county, that are urban and are more urban and have some walkability and bikeability possibilities. But because of that 80% number, decided to focus our Safe Routes to School efforts on educating children about safe biking and skill development. To do that, they've been building up our capacity in each of the four counties. So trying to get one bike fleet per county purchased and organized, about 40 to 60 bikes per county, a good range of sizes from balance bikes for beginners all the way up to adult size mountain bikes, so we can handle high school kids or clubs, for example. Um, Trying to purchase two trailers for each county with a vertical rack system. I have a picture here in a second, as well as the associated supplies and stuff. And then we are working with partners in each county to try to build up that capacity, and we cannot manage this ourselves at Foothills Regional Commission. We just don't have the capacity to do that. So we need partners in each of these counties to do it appropriately, like Kat was saying, with the way Oaks and Spokes is structured in Raleigh. And then we provide through the grant, we actually provide part-time funding for part-time bicycle education staff. And it works a little different in each county, and we'll talk about that in a second. Um, Here's just a couple of images of the trailers that we have. The one on the left there is with one of our partners, the Safe Kids Coalition. You can see the branding on their trailer. And you see a little bit of how we got the trailers organized and the bikes in there. You'll notice we got Giant brand bikes and others. We are not buying bikes from Walmart. We are intentionally going out and getting good quality bicycles that are going to last. These kids are hard on bikes, as those of you who tried to do this will know. We try to get good quality bicycles that will last, and then build a relationship with a local bike shop for maintenance. Um, like I mentioned, we have unique partnerships in each county, and each one is kind of grown differently. In Rutherford County, for example, it's a nonprofit outdoor recreation group is our partner, as well as a Safe Kids Coalition, and that coalition is actually a Rutherford Polk coalition, and they've been a great partner. And if you do have an opportunity to work with a Safe Kids Coalition, and it's a robust one, you're kind of tied in directly with the fire departments. Because they typically partner with Safe Kids coalitions to do public education on safety issues, including bicycling in communities. They also help us with transportation, moving trailers around from school to school. In Cleveland County, I also have a Safe Kids Coalition, but that's actually housed under the Atrium Health Foundation. So actually their whole local hospital is the umbrella organization for that Safe Kids Coalition. And then over in McDowell, I'm still working on establishing this partnership fully, but in conversations with County Parks and Recreation Department, a couple of trail organizations, and even McDowell Technical Community College, which has a burgeoning trail school, and looking at ways to partner with them. So each county's looks a little different. We kind of whatever works to do that. Like I said, we back up a second. We transfer for the ownership and management of the bicycle fleets to the partner organizations. So they're the ones that actually take ownership of those assets, under with an agreement that if they stop using them for their intended purpose, then we would take them back to Foothills and find a new partner to keep the program going. And our focus, given what I talked about, our rural area not wanting to ignore the kids in 80% of the schools, is that we're focused especially on in-school education and especially into PE classes. So we're taking those assets between the bicycles and the trailers and our partners and trying to get into schools. And this is sort of a quick framework of how we set things up in the schools. We're focused on building individual relationships with PE teachers and individual schools, so that we can schedule them and then go and actually park that trailer at a school, typically for 2 weeks at a time. And this gives us an opportunity to get into each grade level 4 or 5 times over that 2 weeks in their PE classes, to help build some progression into the skill building and education that we do. It's challenging. Most of these classes are 30 to 45 minutes long. Yes, you can do a successful bicycle education in 30 minutes, even though you lose 5 minutes on either side for prep and all that, but it can be done. Trust me. Um, one of the keys to doing it in the PE classes and making it work for everybody is to separate the riders from non-riders. And I realize that kind of, unfortunately highlights some of the kids who can't ride, and they may not want to admit it to some of their friends. But if they're ever going to learn how to ride, we have to give them special attention and time to do that. And I've seen a number of kids just learn how to ride in one class or two classes, and it's really neat to see these kids grow. And hopefully year after year, we're going to start seeing the same kids over and over, and we'll be able to continue to grow their skills and introduce them to bicycling or make them comfortable riding wherever it is. All those trails that we mentioned before are, as they grow, we're going to have opportunities to ride to and from school in some cases, but just that's probably where they're going to ride is on those local greenways and community and areas. So that's where we want them to be comfortable and safe. And then I mentioned just creative use of space and time in that school. So some schools have good places to do things outdoors and others not. You're using the gym. Weather affects everything. So you definitely have to get creative with the space you have available. This hopefully this video will pop up. It may not. No, it's not showing. So I'll just let's talk a couple of representative photos here. But anyway, this is one of our schools in Rutherford County, Forest Hunt Elementary School. The PE teacher actually took time to put a little video together of some of the images from their school. Unfortunately, it's not popping up for me here, but you get a little flavor just right there. We're utilizing the gym in this case. We have a Strider bike, balance bikes, where the kids are learning how to ride. They might be going around obstacles, learning hand signals, learning to stop. And then when they get outside, here's another from another school. You see the bike fleet as we stage it, getting ready for the kids. This school actually has a nice paved area. And in this case, we separated the riders on the upper side of this image. These kids are just going in loops over here, trying to learn how to pedal. We're using the balance bike technique to teach them how to ride, just to balance. And then the kids over here in the lower part of the screen are doing an obstacle course, or actually also doing like a newspaper toss right there, where a friend is handing them a newspaper, and they're trying to ride with one hand and then drop the newspaper in a box. So different little skills and different ways to build confidence on those bicycles. Um, and then so again, the focus is any school is willing to work with us. We have the capacity to do that with the bicycles and the trailers. We have a partner that can come in and really support that PE teacher to where they're not having to do it themselves. That the fleet management and just pumping up the bicycle tires and getting everything staged and ready so that there's support for that school so that we can effectively do this education in that short amount of time. And it really is a great way to get a lot of kids on bicycles. And we feel like over the year after year, if we start seeing the same kids, we can start progressing and really building a culture around that cycling that in our communities. And then thinking back about all those trails coming online soon, again, building up that culture, getting the kids excited about being on bicycles and thinking about, hey, where can we go ride as a family? And that's going to be those local trail systems that we mentioned. And then lastly, just thinking about progression and some of the other opportunities. Once you have that capacity in place with your partners and the bikes, you can do some additional things. So this is actually an after-school adventure club with one of the schools. We brought the kids over to the Thermal Belt Rail Trail and went for a group ride on the trail with the kids in an after-school outing, which was a lot of fun. We've got several schools that have done that. And then I mentioned we also have a mountain biking club at Lake Lure Classical Academy. This is one of our partners, and they're set up as far as getting the mountain bikes out there. And you don't necessarily think about mountain biking with safe routes to school, but like I said, this is where they're taking them over to Little White Oak Mountain. Will actually be connecting a neighborhood to a school at some point. So we feel like mountain biking is a different skill and you need to learn it differently. So why not include it in our instruction and in opportunities for these kids? So this is a mountain biking club from Lake Lure Classical Academy. And Polk County now has a mountain bike NICA team as well because of the trail system there and opportunities. So again, we're trying to introduce kids to the joys of bike riding and giving them opportunities to ride in different ways and get confident. So I'll close there. So Ada has some time, but happy to answer questions afterwards.
All right. I believe there's a lot of things popping up on my computer, but I believe that's is everyone seeing the presentation? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Um, Hey everyone, I'm Ada McGovern. I am coming in from the furthest most west part of the state with Safe Routes to School programming. Our program is housed in the Land of Sky Regional Council, which is a council of governments. I'm also nestled in with the French Broad River MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization. So I'm very linked in with regional transportation planning, and then local government in the region. We have 5 counties, so a pretty broad range. And my program is governed by a committee of 10 representatives throughout the region. So that's teachers, parents, school system leaders, nonprofit advocates, folks throughout the region that the school system decided would be good to represent Safe Routes to School for their counties. Some unique features of our region. We are very much in the Appalachian Mountains. So the culture is focused on crafting and outdoor hobbies, tourism. We also have somewhat unique infrastructure in that, curvy, narrow roads, big trucks, longer commutes for folks that are working. A lot of there's been a trend in the past however long where folks are moving further and further out because the cost of housing in the cities like Asheville and Hendersonville it goes up. So there's a lot more commuting on our highways coming in and out of the different counties. Um, of course, I can't not mention Hurricane Helene happened September 2024. Brought a lot of heartbreak and destruction to our region. It also brought some silver lining of community connection. There was a lot of talk after the storm, and still is, about making sure our communities are connected to each other and able to work together to build a better Western North Carolina. Yeah, and there's also lots of support for local trails. We have lots of local greenways. And then if you look bigger, we have the Hellbender Regional Trail Network that is still, actively being used to build the trails. And then the Coosa Trail, which opened last year over in Henderson County, which is a really great place to tap into for some of my programming. Mm, yeah. Here we go. So I'm going to talk about walking. Um, Safe Routes to School is a lot of areas really love to start with biking because it is very fun and flashy and exciting for folks that want to learn about it. And I'm going to highlight just some of the walking programming that we've done. I first just want to say, yeah, it's something I really enjoy about doing walking programming is that it is a lower barrier to entry. You don't have to have all the equipment for a walking event. You don't have to consider cost of helmets and bikes and pogo sticks. And you don't have to consider, is the person going to show up with a bike that isn't rideable? And then we'll have to, tell them no. Or yeah, it's just kind of that barrier to entry, opening opportunities to more folks. When I host a biking event versus when I host the same event in a walking form, I always have like double the attendance with the walking events because it's just easier. It's easier to get out there. It's more flexible with scheduling. Some parents have aftercare. So if you bring your bike to school and then your kids take a bus to aftercare, that's logistically something you have to work out. If you have a co-parenting schedule where your children go to a different house in the evening, that's also, something you have to consider with the gear that you take to and from school when you're biking or rolling. It's an easier sell to schools. Schools are concerned about safety, and they want their kids to arrive safe. And a lot of our roads don't have a ton of the infrastructure for biking in our area. And so when I go to a school saying, "Hey, we want to do this fun walking event," it's a lot easier sell for those schools to be interested in doing. Um, and something else I particularly like is that it is a slower pace. So you're moving slower, you're talking to people, you're noticing the debris on the sidewalk. It kind of taps more into the slow community connection in the morning when kids are moving to school. Um, Here's a couple of the walking programs that we do with Land to Sky. So Sparking the Movement Walks is a program that is a walk to or at school on a monthly basis at different schools. So I mainly use it as Safe Routes School Coordinator to network with new schools. So I will reach out to them and say, "Hey, you've been selected to be the Sparking the Movement Walk this month. And, we want to host a walk to school with your students. We will bring dress up clothes. We will bring glow sticks. We will get kids jazzed about like just dressing up really loud and fun on their commute to school. Um, this has been really nice because, like I said, you get that like first introduction to a school, and then it also helps me to have consistent programming, consistent events. At least once a month, I know that there's going to be a Spark the Movement walk. And this also taps into the like crafty, artsy culture of Asheville and the surrounding areas. Folks like to do themes. They like to dress up and have kind of a fun parade to school. Um, Second up are walk audits. Many folks have heard of walk audits. I don't do a ton of them, mostly because they can be frustrating to like follow up on. But we have done a couple with schools to just focus on a particular road or a particular area around the school with drop off and pickup and where folks are moving before and after school. It's really a good way to have some data to report back to leaders, to go to town council and say, here's this report we put together, and this is the area we'd really want you guys to take note of. Um, Another walking activity that we have is a storybook trail. Um, these are temporary yard signs that we'll put up at various trails or community centers. Um, it's kind of a way to link literacy to movement and activate those spaces, those community spaces. Folks come with their families and they walk through maybe a quarter-mile trail and read a book gradually throughout the trail. So each sign will have a page or 2 pages of a book, and they'll move through it. Currently, we have a Ruby Bridges book that we have moved around to different places. And this also encourages some intergenerational participation. Our area also has a lot of aging population, so we have a lot of grandparents that spend time with their grandkids. And so that gives them an activity that's taking them to a local park, or we've done it at a farm that a school manages. So it gives you some activation in those community spaces and a reason to go there. Um, and then the most famous of our walking programming with Safe Routes to School is the National Walk to School Day. Um, it happens once a year in October. This event particularly is good because I can tap into schools that I've linked up with the Sparking the Movement walks, and be like, hey, remember how great that walk was? Like, let's do it on this day with everybody else around the region that's doing it. So that's kind of a really big encouragement moment, and we try to really hype up those events. A couple more things that we do for walking programming in our region. We have right now we're currently doing our summer stroll series. This is just very informal meetups in the mornings on Wednesday mornings every Wednesday throughout the summer. Uh, it's anyone is welcome. So any students, any local planners, any police department, anyone that wants to show up can show up to these strolls. It's really great because I can connect outside of the school year to folks. So maintain momentum, presence, let folks know that we're around, and link up with new schools. I'll typically plan the routes to highlight local locations of importance or new amenities or fun destinations. Um, if there's a new bike ped signal on Haywood Road, then we will go walk there and highlight it and say, "Hey, look at that new infrastructure. How neat!" And like in Swannanoa in a couple of weeks, we have a new bike park that's coming around. And so it like hasn't opened yet, so we'll get like a sneak peek of what that bike park will look like. So yeah, the summer strolls are a very informal way of like getting anyone in the community to link up. And I launched this right after Helene, the summer after Helene, because there was a lot of emphasis on supporting local business. And we had a lot of like coffee shops and local businesses that were opening back up. And I was like, how can I encourage folks to also support those small businesses that add so much to our communities? So that's another kind of perk to these summer strolls. And then the last one I'll highlight today, I do a flag art competition. So once a year in the spring, we'll open up applications for artists to submit their work based on a theme. It gives kids, so I do kindergarten through fifth grade. It gives students a chance to really express themselves and see themselves in different transportation scenarios. So the theme this year was school zone safety. And so the only responsibility of the child was to consider, what does school zone safety mean to me? How do I express that artistically? And then they submit their artwork, and then our committee picks the winner for the year. And that art gets printed on a flag. You can see in the picture, this is the winner this year, Luke. His art was printed on a flag, and we take it to all of our events. So it's this point of pride. His art is out in the region, being shown off for this year. So, and it's also a bonus that really engages rural schools. So this Clyde Elementary School I can't do a walk to school day there. I've done a walk at school day there, but they are very rural. They don't have the capacity for active transportation to school. So it's really good that he can also engage in Safe Routes to School programming in a creative way. So yeah, some lessons learned. These sound super generic, right? But presence is super important, especially our program's new. We started in 2023, late 2023. So we're still trying to get our name out there in the region. So tabling at events, showing up to meetings, it's been super crucial to any kind of networking that I've done. Kids specifically, you like want to draw them in at events. So I have three things that are really helpful for drawing kids up to your table and keeping them around so parents can talk to you. And that is, I do a touch a bike or an ABC quick check, like quick walkthrough with kids. So I'll just bring one of my children's bikes and just put it out there and tell kids to come over and be like, hey, touch this. Like, what is this? What's the A mean? And they'll like, touch the bike and get familiar with the different mechanisms on it. Um, Another thing I'll do is a table mural, which is basically just like butcher paper and markers. And I'll do a theme like movement makes me feel. And then kids will come up and just draw and doodle and write their name and whatever they feel like doing that day. And then another good tabling tip from my experience is just a spinning wheel of questions. You can see that in that picture. It's a wheel that kids will spin, and it'll stop at a category, and I'll have a question for them based on that category. And then they get a like piece of candy afterwards if they get the question right. So there's my little quick pro tip on that. But also knowing your limits. So my program is currently non-infrastructure. I am very much ingrained in the MPO. So it's taking some boundary setting and education with the public to clearly communicate that, I'm not, I don't have the capacity to build a bike lane for the area. And I also think that unfortunately, Safe Routes to School, the name itself can be very misleading, especially in the more rural areas. They're like, well, we don't have the infrastructure, so why would we engage with your programming? Um, and yeah, little by little, culture change just doesn't happen quickly. Often, Safe Routes to School is very nuanced. It can bring burnout for folks that are really engaged in it if you don't take some time to recenter your expectations and celebrate those little wins, whether it's, a principal saying, this is my favorite day of the year, or a kid, learning how to use a pedal. So little by little. Um, just gonna throw out some partnerships that I interact with. I call these my VIPs, my very important partnerships. Um, Always welcome to add to that list because Safe Routes to School is very vital to those. And also if you have a coordinator in your area, please link up with them, get to know them. We always are looking for folks to plan stuff with. Um, Next up for our programming, We're going to do more in-school safety programming, more long-term, like week-long safety programming. I will be getting a bike fleet by the end of the year, so that's very exciting. Finally taking a step towards Jerry's way. And then we are also exploring some traffic garden projects in some of our cities. And if you live in any of these communities, please come to the summer stroll. And we would be happy to have you. It's at 8:30 in the morning, and you can just show up and make it however you want. There is my contact. If everyone that has a phone right now, please scan that QR code. That is our Instagram, and I've been told it's not the worst Instagram, so that's good. And you can keep up with any programming we do in the Land of Sky, Safe Routes to School region. All right, that's all I got.
Oh my gosh, Kat and Jerry and Ada, thank you all so much for sharing such diverse, fun programs. Grateful that our state has you all activating your communities and the ways that you are. So, does anyone in our audience have questions?
I have a question. This is Palmer. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes. Hi,
Okay,
Palmer.
I'm traveling. Hi. This was a fantastic program. Thank you so much. And it just really highlights, the coalition, we're focused on delivering resources to create infrastructure, but it's really the programming work that y'all are doing that is so important. Says if we can really fulfill our goal to be the Great Trails State, because it's about, creating healthier communities and encouraging people to move. And I wanted to ask a little bit about the program itself, because I'm not intimately familiar with the Safe Routes to School program and the funding. So how often does the funding opportunity come up? Who's eligible? And what kind of funding range do they provide? And are these programs sustainable within your organizations outside of Safe Routes to School programming? Does it sort of become part of just what your organizations do? So those are my questions. Thanks.
I can kick us off, and I know that Ada and Jerry will also have some thoughts on this. So the grant is usually available 2 to 3 years. So they initially put out because of the way some federal funding trickled down, they were able to extend all of our contracts for an additional year, but we were awarded just a 2-year grant to start. It does typically require a 20% match, although my community right now is paying no match. So again, like depending on how they work it out with the federal funds that are being routed through DOT, it's either a 0 to 20% local match. And basically anyone is welcome to apply as long as you're associated with an official organization in some capacity. So NPOs, public health departments, school districts, nonprofits, municipal governments, all of those are welcome to apply. The funding ranges a lot. So my community they fund us at a couple 100,000, but Wake County is far above that. They're the most funded program in the state. So it varies a lot depending on what you asked for in your initial grant application. So if you're funding a full-time coordinator or part-time or different programming, so it seems like they are willing to fund a lot as long as it falls within the allowable expenses. Ada and Jerry, do you want to add anything?
I was just gonna say it's been a couple years since it's been publicly out there. So I think when I started in 2023 was the last time they opened applications. So this year is going to be kind of like there may be some changes. We've had coordinators change. We've had, just the general climate has changed. But they have told us it's pretty similar to the past, and there will be that 20% local match. So, yeah.
Well, I'll also say, Ada, I know you can speak to this a little bit, but the sustainability of the program within communities, um, I think all of us have shown the value to our agencies, like how important Safe Routes to School is. But I know that finding that local match can be challenging too, especially if you are in yeah, because of the way funding climates have shifted over the last couple of years and everything. So I think that is maybe more of the struggle, even though all of our agencies have probably recognized the value in the program. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add one more quick thing is that the reason we are approaching it the way we are to build up all of our partnerships is to sort of spread the buy-in so that that the it's more likely to be sustained. It doesn't have to be, Foothills Regional Commission year after year, the one kind of leading it, if you will. So hopefully, if you build up your partnerships well and get a lot of buy-in from different areas, you're more likely to be able to sustain it as a community, regardless of who's leading a grant application, for example.
Well, thank y'all so much for sharing all that information. Really appreciate it.
Well, we are at the top of the hour, and if everybody can react and give a warm thank you to how grateful we are for your sharing and the work you're doing and helping make North Carolina the great trail state. So thanks for joining, and please, this session was recorded and will be on our added to our library of sessions on the CTCT page. And we hope we see you at the next one, which actually won't be until September because we're going to see you at the conference in August.
Thank
Thanks,
you so much,
everyone.
everyone, for attending. Appreciate it.
Happy summer. Thanks for that comment, Rudy.